everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and new faces as well. I'm introducing Terry Baum, 1946, who is a slightly world-renowned lesbian playwright. In 2019, her anthology, One Dyke's Theater, was published by Exit Press. In 2024, she performed Hick, a love story, at the Marsh in San Francisco, and Lesbo Solo at the San Francisco Fringe Theater Festival. And I'd like you all to welcome Terry, who's going to describe the very interesting process through which she came to do this slideshow that you're all going to get to enjoy in just a minute. Terry, take it away.
Thank you, Connie. So I just thought it was interesting because really OLOC itself was the genesis of this project. This year during, it must have been Black History Month, OLOC planned a panel of women, OLOC members, talking about Black lesbians that they knew or they admired. And so I signed up for that. I thought, well, gee, who do I want to know more about myself? And I came up with Barbara Jordan. And then it turned out on the panel, each person got 6 minutes. And it's ridiculous to try to talk about Barbara Jordan, who was a congresswoman and the first African-American this and the first woman that. And in 6 minutes, I was very frustrated. So I'm also a member of Lesbians Write On, which is a weekly writing group, and also offers lectures, sometimes PowerPoint presentations. And I was talking to Meryl Mushroom, who is always on the lookout for activities for Lesbians Write On. And I told her how frustrated I was by my 6 minutes on Barbara Jordan. And she said, well, why don't you give a presentation for us? And I did that and took the whole time of the whole group. And one of the women who saw that presentation, I can't remember who it was, said, hey, what about doing it for OLOC? So here I am. This is the, you could say the third presentation on Barbara Jordan, but I really can't count the first one, which was literally 6 minutes because the moderator cut everyone off when they got to 6 minutes. So this is the second time I've done it. And I feel like I still can find out more and learn more and about Barbara Jordan. She's a pretty exciting subject. And I remember myself when she became nationally famous, when she spoke at the Watergate hearings. And it was a big deal. Of course, at that time, I wasn't a lesbian and I had no idea she was. Anyhow, and so here I am. So now I'm going to share. Well, first I'm going to do that. Oh, shoot. How do I do that? Did I cut myself off? Are you there? Oh, God. Please don't tell me I just.
No, you're here. You're here.
Okay. All right.
All right. Find
PowerPoint. There we go. Is this it? Am I on?
Not yet. You got to hit.
No, not yet. Okay. Now I got to go back and do
the screen
to Zoom and do share. Okay. And now I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do share.
And there you go. We're all good.
Okay.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay. Oh, okay. let's go back. So Barbara Jordan, American Hero, that's the title of her really excellent biography, or I should say, excellent in every way, except it completely denies the fact that she was a lesbian. And she was totally closeted in her whole life. So and this is my first picture of Barbara. She's in the Texas Senate, State Senate. That was the first thing she was elected to. And she's raising her hand to vote yes on, and you could just see the determination in your voice, and you see, despite her lovely feminine fake leopard collar, she's a butch. You know, she's not just a lesbian. She has a very butch demeanor, and I do believe that was part of her power, was that. So this is her great-grandfather, Edward A. Patton. He was the only African-American holdover from Reconstruction. And in 1891, he led a fight against the poll tax, which he argued would remove also a lot of white votes. It would basically remove the votes of poor people who couldn't afford to pay the tax. And there were also white people who obviously were going to be driven out of the electorate too. And he has the great honor of having delayed the poll tax for 12 years. So Barbara Jordan actually had this kind of political history in her blood. So this is a photo of a street in the 5th precinct in Houston, where Barbara Jordan lived. And as you could see, the street is not paved. It's in, but however, you can also see that things are pretty much in order and clean in this street. So this was a very thriving, if not rich, African-American community. And these were they were called shotgun houses because they were so small that it was said if you stood in the front door and shot a shotgun, which sprayed a lot of pellets, you would hit every part of the house with one shot. And her family was very active in the Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. As you can see, now its name has changed in this photo, but this was the building where she went to church, and her family was very, very active in it. And as you can see, not a little place, very established. So a very active African-American community, totally segregated from the white community in every way. This is her grandfather, her maternal grandfather, who was a very important person in her life, Grandpa John Ed Patton. And he had a junkyard in the middle of Houston. And the Houston was always trying to get a junkyard, and he owned a wagon and 2 mules. And Houston was always, the city was always trying to get rid of his junkyard. And the whole Jordan family shunned him because they were striving to be more middle class, and he was really kind of a rowdy guy. And but Barbara used to visit him starting when she was a little girl, and they had a very special relationship. She loved working in the junkyard. He split the profits of the day with her, and he told her she was special. He was very sure that she was destined for greatness. And I think that she adored him, And that was the only place she heard that message when she was a little girl. So this is Barbara she's the youngest in the middle of her two sisters, Benny on the left and Rosemarie on the right. And here's Barbara older in high school. She was the president of the Honor Society. She was always trying to figure out how she could advance her life and have a bigger say in the world. In high school, she heard this woman speak, Edith P. Sampson. Edith Sampson was a lawyer, and she later became, after speaking in high school, she later became the first Black woman judge and the first Black delegate from the US to the United Nations. So she was quite a powerful woman herself, and she made an enormous impression on Barbara, and Barbara decided, I am going to be a lawyer based on her speech, Edith P. Sampson's speech to her class. So I would say, if you have a chance to speak in high school about your life, do it. You don't have any idea what effect you might have on the students, because we would probably not know Barbara Jordan's name if she hadn't heard Sampson. So this is Barbara with her family. Her sisters, this is as an adult. She got her mom is on the right, and it was said that she got her talent from her mother. Her mother had an amazing singing voice. Barbara Jordan, part of her power was she had this deep speaking voice, resonant speaking voice. She wasn't truly an orator. She had that power from her mother. And her mother was a singer and unfortunately got really squashed by Barbara's father. The mother's husband was one, and he tried to squash Barbara too. He wasn't able to do it, but he did. So this is Barbara with her mother on the left and her father on the right. He was very domineering. He demanded that Barbara's mother be just a very obedient, submissive wife. He felt that his family was superior to hers because because Barbara's grandfather was the junk dealer. But although he was very domineering, he also stood behind her dreams, and he helped finance Barbara going to law school at Boston University. This was a project that the whole family was involved in fact. You would think somebody like Barbara would be nurtured by a place like Boston University, but they let her in, but they demanded that she just take care of herself when she got there. This is Barbara. This is before she gets to Boston University, Texas Southern University. She was on the debate team. And this is the very famous debate team that traveled all over the country and actually tied with it's Barbara and one of the other debaters on the right, and on the left are two from Harvard. So they went all the way in this one year, they went all the way to the top, and the finals was against Harvard, and the Texas Southern University tied with Harvard in the judges' eyes. Now, the the TSU debaters considered that a win because they felt if they had really truly been tied, Harvard would have, the judges, who of course were all white, would have given the win to Harvard. So they felt very strongly that they had won the debate, but the judges couldn't possibly imagine giving them the first prize above Harvard. So they were forced to be acknowledged as a tie. And so this was, and when Barbara spoke, when she was a famous politician and spoke at Harvard, she took the care to notify everyone from Harvard who was listening to her that they had actually, the TSU people had actually won that debate. So this is Barbara in her first elected position. After, I'm kind of coordinated this thing with photos. There's no photos of her in law school at Boston University. That was really her first encounter with white culture. And because if you're really segregated, you're living in a Black community. You don't have contact with the white community. You don't know that there are other ways to be and other heights that can be climbed. And so when she got to Boston, she discovered that her university experience had been very inferior to all the white people in her class. And it was a very, very difficult time in Boston University. She was living on almost nothing. This money from her family. One sister gave her $10 a month. Another sister gave her $10 a month. It was that kind of thing the family was struggling to do. And when she found out that where she lived was a tram ride away from where the dorm was, a tram ride away from the university, that meant that she was going to be paying 40 cents a day to take the tram back and forth. That just about busted her budget. So, but afterwards, after she got her degree, she came back to Houston, and there had to be a change from the first Civil Rights Act for her to have a chance of getting elected, because the gerrymandering had prevented any district from being a majority Black. And so this is the Senate, the upper house of the Texas legislature. And she was the first African-American since Reconstruction who was in the Senate, the first African-American woman ever. And she was 31 when she entered the Senate and she's with all these good old boys, no other Blacks and no other women. And she loved it. She loved playing the game of politics. She was not at all a radical. She never participated in any protest or demonstration. She didn't believe in that. She believed in legislation that changed people's lives, and she believed in doing what was realistic to make any change for the better happen. And she absolutely befriended the white racists who were furious that she was in the Senate. And she became she was one of the boys. That's what they called her. She gambled with them. She smoked. She developed a taste for Cutty Sark, a very expensive whiskey. She went on hunting expeditions with them. She was not a part, she participated with the Liberal Democratic Caucus when it served her, but they could not count on her. A lot of times she felt they were involved in trying to get acts, things passed that were really just symbolic. There was no chance of it getting passed. She wasn't interested in that. So she was an independent in the Texas Senate. And I love this photo of her because you can see that she is the center of attention to these good old boys. She was respected by all the other senators, even though they started out, one of them was quoted as saying, I'm not going to let a nigger tell me what to do. He said that publicly. She gained people's respect, and partly by working for it, going and meeting them, trying to befriend them. But also she had she was a big woman with a big personality. She went on anything. Texas politics is like kind of a weird clubby thing. So the Senate was certainly like a club. And if there was any activity, whether it was hunting or going out drinking for the night, that the club was doing, Barbara Jordan was there. This is another one of her I like. She was really in her element in the Texas Senate. She really was. And in this photo, you see she's Governor Barbara Jordan. So Texas had this other tradition, governor for a day. So the president pro tem of the Senate got to be governor one day of the year. So in fact, she was the very first African-American to be a governor, even if it was only one day. And this day was a very big deal. I mean, there were parades and there were barbecues. And so the Texas salutes Barbara Jordan. Activities of the day. 9:30, inauguration in Senate chamber. 10:30, press conference. 10:45, reception. 12, inaugural luncheon. 2, program. Tours of the governor's mansion, tours of the Capitol building, Black cultural exhibits, musical groups, tours of LBJ's library, and finally a film, Meet the Negro Texan, narrated by Barbara Jordan. So she was truly celebrated during this day. She had a personality, an outsized personality. People were drawn to her. So, and she has a whole speech about what being governor for the day means to her. And here's this letter that went out. The future can mean a bold new venture for Texas. It can mean an end to poverty and human suffering. The future can signal the beginning of a new commitment by the government to the people of the state of Texas. This must be a commitment which recognizes that the quality of a man's life is measured by his job, health, home, school, environment, spirit, and opportunity for personal growth and development. So she always had a very progressive agenda, even if she wasn't always going along with what the Democrats wanted to do at that moment. So she attracted the attention of LBJ while she was in the Texas Senate. He loved her. And this was the only photo I could find that showed the kind of closeness that they had. And he told her that she could be president. And that was a thrilling thing for her to hear. I mean, that's basically saying you can go as far as you want. So she ran for Congress. It was in a district where a progressive district. So the big election was the the primary, who would get the Democratic nomination. She was running against a progressive white man who had been also in the Texas legislature. And he tried to convince them, the voters, that to show that racism was over, what they could do was vote for an enlightened white man to show they really weren't racist. And it didn't go over very well with anybody. And she was won the primary and was elected to Congress. And Johnson was already inviting her to special meetings. Even when she was in the Texas Senate, he'd send a plane for her to come to some meeting in Washington, D.C. So this was during her first session in Congress. This is a photo of Barbara Jordan when she's giving her very famous speech. Okay, very famous speech. It's the beginning of the impeachment hearings. In fact, I was reading one article that I had photocopied about it, and they said she gave the introductory speech. That's not true. Many people spoke before her, but when Barbara spoke, because she had this amazing, thrilling voice, and she said things that she said things that were sort of very basic and clear. So she begins by saying, earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We, the people. It's a very eloquent beginning, but when the document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we, the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we, the people. She is always referring to the past, always reminding people of the terrible heritage of slavery, but without anger. She doesn't ever, she feels that that's not productive, to get angry at white people, to get angry about this this history. I mean, she even makes almost the joke, I was left out by mistake. And she says, today I am an inquisitor, and hyperbole would not be fictional and would not overstate the solemnness that I feel right now. My faith in the Constitution is whole. It is complete. It is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. So this was all about the Watergate hearings, in which the White House was part of a plan to disrupt the Democratic Party during the presidential election, and actually had broken into the Democratic Party's offices in Watergate, the Watergate Hotel. Maybe it was a residential place in Washington, D.C. So she goes on. It's very, and I never found this in any of the analysis of what she said. Basically, she quotes from the constitutional debates, which were all recorded in all the states. No, that's not true. Not all the states, many of the states that were in the initial United States. It wasn't all the states, it was only the debates of the southern states that she quoted. And I never found anybody who noticed this other than me. But it seems to me that she was not bothering to speak to the Democrats. She knew the Democrats wanted Nixon out of there. She was speaking about what the slave states had said about impeachment to show the Republicans that even the slave states believe in impeachable offenses and in getting a president who had contradicted the Constitution out of office. So she never in her speech said Nixon should be impeached. She talked about what impeachment was in terms of what these Southern slave states had said it was and what Nixon did. And this had an enormous effect on the whole country. And the Republicans went to Nixon the next day and said, listen, it is not looking good and you had better resign. And that is what happened. And Barbara Jordan, with her eloquence and power, was more than any other elected official the one who made it happen. Here's another one of her, rather blurry. So that was, then she became a national figure because of that one speech. So in 1976, she was the keynote speaker at the Democratic presidential convention, the first woman and the first African-American to be the keynote speaker. And at that time, she said, find that. She talks about 144 years ago, the members of the Democratic Party first met in convention to select a presidential candidate. Since that time, Democrats have continued to convene once every 4 years and draft a party platform and nominate a candidate. And our meeting this week is a continuation of that tradition, but there is something different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. What is different? What is special? I, Barbara Jordan, am a keynote speaker. A lot of years passed since 1832, and during that time, it would have been most unusual for any national party to ask a Barbara Jordan to deliver a keynote address. But tonight, here I am, and I feel that notwithstanding the past, that my presence here is one additional bit of evidence that the American dream need not forever be deferred. So she was always referring to our past of slavery to show how far we have come from it and give us all a model of hope and transformation. And she used it so brilliantly. And at the end, in her speech, she doesn't talk about how terrible the Republicans are or how great the Democrats are. She talks about this is what the Democrats have to do once we get elected. And oh God, Jimmy Carter was elected. So, and at the end of her speech, she says, I began this speech by commenting to you on the uniqueness of a Barbara Jordan making a keynote address. Well, I'm going to close my speech by quoting a Republican president. And I ask you that as you listen to these words of Abraham Lincoln, relate them to the concept of a national community in which every last one of us participates. Quote, as I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master, end quote. This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy. Thank you. So she spoke often in very simple terms that anyone could understand. And that was a part of her power. So here she is with Jimmy Carter, and she definitely worked very hard to get him elected, and expected to be rewarded with some kind of cabinet position, and got absolutely no reward at all. And there was a lot of politicking back and forth involved in that. And she was pretty bitter about that. I mean, it's rough. Political life is rough, and she wasn't always a winner. So here she is with Nancy Earl, who was her life partner. Where am I? And this, in 1979, she was actually in electoral politics a very short period of time, from 1972 to 1979, because she had developed MS, multiple sclerosis, and she felt she had to, she stayed as long as she could. It progressed very rapidly, and she felt she couldn't keep going. Really, it was in this photo, she's probably in a wheelchair, and she really couldn't keep going. She had been slowed down by her health, and many people were very devastated when she quit. Not just every progressive African American in the country, but many progressive white political people were very devastated by her. I mean, they really did have hopes that she might become president. She had that kind of gravitas. So she got a position. She was hired at the University of Texas, adjunct professor teaching ethics at the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs. And here she is with one of the students and Nancy Earl in their home. They bought 20 acres outside of Austin, and built a house there. And they had met on a camping trip, which was all women, and bought this property and lived together for 20 years until Barbara Jordan died in 1996. So here she is. She's again a keynote speaker at the 1992 convention, and which was when Bill Clinton was nominated. She was considered not just this great icon, but also a kind of good luck charm. I mean, Clinton wanted her to be the keynote speaker that began the convention, because Jimmy Carter was elected after Jordan gave her keynote speech, and Carter was kind of an outsider from the South, just like Clinton. And in fact, Clinton was also elected. So Barbara Jordan continued to live in Austin and teach at the university. Here she is. This is her when she's giving the keynote speech. As you can see, she's in a wheelchair. And then she traveled, and she met Nelson Mandela. And when they they would say, who is the most admired woman in the world. Often in the United States, it was Mother Teresa first and then Barbara Jordan second. So she had, even when she wasn't in political life anymore, she still was a kind of beacon of hope and an example of ethics and power. So this is Ann Richards, the infamous, notorious, fabulous Ann Richards, who became governor of Texas, another very strong and independent woman. And she and Barbara Jordan were great friends. I mean, they really saw eye to eye. Ann Richards had been a housewife who crusaded for progressive change before she ran for governor and she was pretty fabulous governor too. And here's Nancy in their home on the deck. There's no real photo that I could find of Barbara and Nancy together. From the very beginning of Barbara Jordan's career, there were rumors. And her biographer says a single woman always is in politics, always is the subject of rumors. And there were rumors that she had affairs with men and rumors that she had affairs with women. And when she first ran for the Texas legislature, she did have a woman who went, who accompanied her until the campaign manager said, get rid of her. She can't keep going around with you. So there's very little of Nancy Earl in the documentation. Here Barbara is the one with her back to the camera, and there's Nancy Earl in the plaid jacket at a political meeting where, you know, they're working on something important. And she happens to be there. And here again is Nancy Earl. You see her head just to the left of Hillary Clinton. Barbara is receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom in this picture, and her relatives are there and her sisters, and it was, you know, big deal. The Medal of Freedom, Nancy in the back. And then this is, oh, I tried to get a closer picture of Nancy, but it's all digitized. You can't really see her. And I mean, Texas politics is different from other states, and the governor for a day is an example of the kind of rituals around it. And then Texas also has a state cemetery, okay, for famous Texans. I mean, I'm in California. There's no cemetery. There's no state cemetery for famous Californians. I don't know about your state. So there's a sense of self-importance and also having a really good time in Texas. So Barbara, when she was in the legislature, tried to get something passed to say that African Americans could be buried in the Texas State Cemetery. And she was never able to get that passed when she was in the Texas legislature. And when she died in 1996 from complications, she had so many different things at the time she died. She had leukemia, she had pneumonia, that, you know, they had a lot of experimental treatments that Barbara Jordan tried, and a lot of the treatments were far more damaging than helpful. So that was one of the reasons she died so early. So she was the very first African American to be buried in the Texas State Cemetery. And here she is with an honor guard. And in the obituary in the Houston Chronicle, the newspaper called Nancy Earle her longtime companion, which was the established euphemism for homosexual. So there was that kind of acknowledgement that she was gay. And one time she had, where is this thing? I'm looking for something to read that is not here. Nancy actually saved Barbara's life. They had a swimming pool and Barbara was supposed to do exercises in it. And she lost consciousness in the pool, and Nancy dragged her out and gave her, saved her life and gave her what's it called? She revived her. Anyhow, so when Barbara died, there was again more focus and speculation about her personal life. She always was incredibly private, and both about her personal life and including about, she never talked about her illness ever in public. She never acknowledged she had MS. And when Nancy Earle was interviewed, and now I have all my papers here and I cannot find what the paper that I'm looking for, which is the actual quote from Nancy Earle saying, I was there every day. I helped her get dressed. I cooked for her. And you could say whatever you want about us. She's kind of, it's just a powerful quote because it's like she's pleading for somebody to acknowledge that she was Barbara's wife, in fact, in reality, and was the person helping Barbara keep going as her health deteriorated. And ironically, this biographer was really a very good biography, but she tackles the rumors of Barbara's homosexuality and in the introduction to the biography. And she said, in truth, Barbara's only intimate relationship was with God. This is what her biographer comes up with. Yeah, right. God got her dressed in the morning and God saved her when she was unconscious in the swimming pool. It's just so frustrating because as a gay writer talked about, that people were totally comfortable outing Barbara as a person with MS after she died, but outing her as, and that was something she never wanted anybody to know. That was really okay to out her as a person suffering from MS. But then again, totally different standard was applied to the fact that she was lesbian. However, I don't know who first established it, but now the National Archives says she is a lesbian. So she is out now in history. And this is the statue of Barbara Jordan on the University of Texas campus where she taught. There were, until this statue, there were no statues of women on the campus who were not mothers or goddesses. There was not, there was not a statue of a woman who actually lived. And the the women of University of Texas lobbied and raised the money for this wonderful, alive, incredible statue of Barbara Jordan. It was really their tribute to her, and they're the ones that made it happen. So, that's the end of this presentation. Now, if I give one again, I'm going to have even more information in it. But this is what I was able to get together this time. And so now we can do questions.